The conflict in Palestine intensified following the World War II. The British government, bankrupt, announced in 1947 that it was turning over its Palestine mandate to the recently formed United Nations. Britain set May 15, 1948 as the date on which it would withdraw its troops. After months of debate, the UN General Assembly set November 29, 1947 as the date for a vote on partitioning Palestine. The Palestinians were not even consulted before the UN vote. There was no vote for the Palestinian people to determine how they felt. The UN partition vote was an illegitimate act, a violation of the Palestinians' right to self-determination. The two-thirds majority required to pass Resolution 181 was only achieved through intense US pressure. The vote ended up 33-13 with 10 abstentions. The administration of Harry S. Truman leaned heavily on the neo-colonies and client states like Philippines, Liberia, Haiti, Thailand, etc. All of them were initially opposed to the resolution and subsequently switched their votes. Without these four votes, the resolution would have failed. The Soviet Union and its allies, who later became key supporters of the Arab liberation struggles, also provided crucial votes without which the partition resolution would have failed. So what was behind this decision? The Soviet leadership mistakenly believed that Israel would be a friendly state. The Soviet army, after all, had been the main force that defeated Nazism and liberated the concentration camps in Poland and Eastern Germany. Soviet support for Resolution 181 was a disaster for the Palestinians and the Arab anti-colonial struggle, as well as for the communist parties in the Arab world. All of the communist parties in the Arab world, with the exception of Iraqi party, unfortunately supported the Soviet position, which compromised them in the eyes of the Arab masses. Israel received crucial political and military support from the Soviet Union and its allies in 1947 and 1948. At that time, much of the Israeli population was pro-socialist and pro-Soviet. But neither of these facts mattered. Israel's fundamental relationship to the imperialist West could not be altered. After all, without imperialist patronage, the Zionist project never would have gotten off the ground. The UN partition vote led to the celebration among the Zionists. Despite owning just 6% of the land and constituting 35% of the population, Resolution 181 granted the soon-to-be state of Israel 55% of Palestine. The Palestinian Arabs were to receive 44% of the territory, with the remaining 1% to be international zone. The zone included Jerusalem. On the Palestinian side, there was justified anger and rebellion. All parties knew ahead of time that partition meant war. In 1948, war fighting broke out immediately. The Zionist military forces possessed superior equipment, training, and number of state-of-the-art equipments for the war. This advantage only increased over the following years. Since the defeat of the 1936-39 revolt, Palestinians had been forbidden, often under penalty of death, to possess weapons. On the other side, the Haganah had grown much stronger, as had the Irgun and the Lehi. Most Haganah soldiers had military training, having joined the British Army during World War II. Funds from the United States, England, and other countries were pouring in to support what became the State of Israel. Ben-Gurion and his military commanders were determined not to accept just 55% of Palestine and immediately began to carry military operations to seize as much territory as possible, including Jerusalem. But as a number of Israeli and Palestinian historians have documented, their aim was not just to take control of land. The other equally essential goal of the Zionist leaders was to uproot and expel as much of the Arab population as possible from Palestine. Addressing the Central Committee on December 30, 1947, Ben-Gurion made it clear that he had no intention of accepting a significant Arab presence even with a subjugated status. The ethnic cleansing of Palestinians that began almost immediately after partition delighted Ben-Gurion. But what so delighted Ben-Gurion in early 1948 was not yet reflected in most of the country. In the first month of fighting, while the Zionists generally prevailed in battle, the objective of driving out the Palestinian population was not being achieved. Palestinian villagers would retreat, but only to a nearby village, waiting for the fighting to stop. Until March 1, 1948, the population had been driven out from less than 5% of Palestinian villages. This constituted a serious problem from the point of view of the Zionist leaders. Two additional factors made the problem a potential crisis for the Zionists. One was a shift in Washington. While the Truman administration had played a key role in pushing the partition plan through the UN General Assembly, it was now evidently having second thoughts. The partition plan had not brought a settlement or peace, and a war raging in Palestine had angered the entire Arab world. Much of the anger was directed at Washington, and the US government began floating other alternatives in hope of pacifying the situation. One idea floated by the State Department called for scrapping the partition plan and replacing it with a 5-year UN trusteeship over the area. The Zionist leaders rejected it outright, but were acutely conscious of the fact that they were losing critically needed support. The approach of May 15, 1948, the date of the British withdrawal, was another factor creating a crisis atmosphere for the Zionist commanders. On March 10, 1948, Ben-Gurion and his inner circle began to implement a new doctrine called the Plan Dalet. Under the Plan Dalet, the Haganah, along with its supposed rival, the Irgun, began staging attacks on quiet Palestinian villages, those which were not even involved in the fighting. Israeli historian Ilan Pappé asserts that Ben-Gurion and his troops actually saw quiet village as a bigger problem than those that resisted. Resistance provides Zionists with a pretext or an excuse for carrying out harsh repression and removal. Plan Dalet escalated the level of violence directed against the Palestinian civil population to the extreme. A typical operation carried out by Haganah and Irgun units would plant explosives around Palestinian houses in the middle of the night, drench them with gasoline, and then open fire. The point was to terrorize and drive away the Palestinian population. Arbitrary executions became routine, particularly against men and boys, even if they were not involved in resistance. It did not matter. They were all targeted, but however, this wasn't apparently enough, and the Zionist leaders decided that more was needed.